Hello and welcome to week 15, the last week here in the psychology of adulthood. And what a journey we have had. I have totally enjoyed this class. The deep discussions, everything that we've been doing in this class has been really fun for me, and just to see and read your writing has just been a marvelous experience and just awesome. Just awesome. So, chapter 15 kind of wraps up the lifespan rather than leaving us in the rather somber area of death and dying. We look here to meaning, transcendence, what Maslow would refer to really as the ultimate goal of personality, of humanity, is to reach a point of understanding of one's place in the world, understanding our entire life. So you have some Erickson in there in terms of sewing together all the pieces of our lives in late life, coming up with a beautiful tapestry that represents our legacy, our place, our time while we've been on the planet. So we're going to shift to a different kind of psychology here that has terms that are unique to these kinds of explorations. Some of them are deeply philosophical, others maintain a sort of developmental spiritual path. These are things that I discuss in the personality class. If you've taken that, you know that there's the different paths within the personality class that we talk about having to do with developing a sense of meaning and one's place in the world. But probably the most well known, and this particular theory, I'm sure you all know about it, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, probably arguably the most popular and well known psychological theory. It is applied in many different areas of humanity and our experiences. We use them in social work to identify basic needs, and then moving up, and how those interact with each other, just on almost on a clinical, almost a prescriptive way of using that. But we can also see it as sort of a progressive journey, particularly where you start getting into Maslow's higher order areas, such as the peak one, transcendence. Beyond even self-actualization. So you have self-actualization and transcendence. And Maslow ended up writing one of the only books that I've actually read from Maslow was a book called Peak Experiences. And these are instances, events, occurrence, observations that happen in our lives that allow us to touch the grander mystery, the connection to something bigger than we are, and a sense of community, connection, understanding that can only come through these kinds of experiences. And Maslow wrote about those. And I'm going to be asking you to think about those, that we can't spend all of our time up in self-actualization. Sometimes we just dip our toe into that. In fact, let me just say this. I think Maslow pretty much thought that most people never achieved self-actualization. And so, just like Piaget said, most people don't achieve formal operational thinking. These are areas that are really, that require deep thinking and whatnot. And so, um, they're not necessarily, even though we are pursuing that, we may not spend a whole lot of time being self-actualized. We're spending a lot of time developing our relationships with other people, to developing our sense of ourself and identity and all that. There's other needs right there, but every once in a while we might be able to tip our toe into the cosmos and look at these. And what we're looking at are peak experiences. It might be very small. It might be, you're walking in the woods and you notice a dragonfly just lands on a branch, and the sun just glints off of its multicolored wings, and it's just this overwhelming sense of natural beauty, and it just kind of captures your mind for a moment, and it causes you to think about the grandness of creation. And so, or it could be the birth of your child. Certainly peak experiences for just about anybody that's been through that. Or maybe it's the time that you graduated. Maybe you're looking forward right now to a peak experience when you have completed your degree and you get to walk across that stage and have people applaud for you, and that feeling that you're looking forward to of a feeling of connection and community that sort of transcends, just passing classes, passing tests, and getting a piece of paper. It's more than that for you. So we're looking at that. So the discussion, I'm asking you to actually share some of those stories. In the quiz, we're turning our lens over to Viktor Frankl. Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Holocaust and took that experience, I guess what we could call a peak experience, a horrific one, and transformed it into a philosophy, sense of psychology, really having to do with meaning. In fact, his book is Man's Search for Meaning. So very philosophical thinking. And what he talks about are the actions that actually helped him survive psychologically, if not physically, the horrors of the Holocaust. And so he talked about having authentic interactions with people, about giving back, giving and helping others, and then our attitudes, how we explore our role in making choices, in understanding our interactions with the world, and taking on that responsibility, along with seeking joy, seeking gratitude. Those kinds of things are very, very common words to be talked about. All of this stuff is, but contextualize this as coming from a guy who had to embrace these things while existing within what is likely the most horrific human situation in history, and yet was able to capture that in there. So it kind of minimizes our daily struggles sometimes. Don't let it do that. We all have our burdens, and we are all called upon to make our way through those burdens with authentic experiences, giving back, and our attitudes. That's the quiz. So the quiz, I'm asking you for an instance, just an example of how you may have overcome a particular situation. There's been lots of shared situations in this class. Or it could be how a normal situation became a peak experience. Let's kind of combine these a little bit, just sort of making this up here. You could actually look at an experience that was just normal, and then there was this profound sort of thing that happened at this normal experience. I'll give you an example of that. Quite a few years ago, I was on my way to deliver a session at a conference in Austin, Texas for NISOD. And as I was waiting to board the plane, there was a person next to me, and I noticed that they had a NISOD bag with them. So I started developing a conversation with them, just kind of going back and forth. And as it turns out, I'm just getting on a plane. As it turns out, as it would be, our seats are right next to each other, and we talked all the way to Austin. Upon arriving in Austin, I found that this guy was one of the keynote speakers that was going to be, and I had already signed up for some of his sessions and all that stuff. And we actually developed sort of a friendship. that has been an ongoing sense of joy for me since then. Just this normal event that sort of became transcendent, and our conversation quickly moved to very philosophical aspects of what we do for a living in terms of teaching and professing and those kind of things, the role that he has. And now he's a speaker, he's a motivational speaker, he's a he's an instructor of instructors, helping individuals. I've been trying to get him to come to Maine to do some speaking engagements, continue to try that. And it's just an amazing story that he has, a story of surviving a bicycle accident, and that plays a big role in his presentation. And just that normal event of getting on a plane, flying over to a conference, really turned into a very, very important memory. We had authentic conversation. Our attitudes were incredibly matching and positive. I sensed an individual who was incredibly grateful for his life and was now retired and was spending all of his time giving back. And what an inspiration that is. So that's what we have this week. Chapter 15, the search for meaning, the chapter 15 discussion on peak experiences, and then the chapter 15 quiz on Frankel's interactions, authentic interactions, giving back, and attitudes. And this will draw our class to a close. I will not be posting any more videos, so this is the last video. So I'll take the time now to thank you, just like I did at the beginning. Thank you for an amazing class, an amazing sharing of information. I feel connected to you folks. I hope you feel connected in this class. I can't imagine that you wouldn't. It would be hard not to be. People were, very gracious in sharing their ideas, and we've had this journey together, and I am incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of this journey in this topic for you. Some of you have taken my personality class. That's awesome. I'll do some self-promotion this summer. I'm going to be teaching behavior management. That's not a whole lot of philosophical reflection in that one. That's a lot of, rewards, punishments, that kind of a very technical side of me that teach, but a fun class nonetheless. Lots of fun things. If you're interested in taking that class, I'll be teaching that online here at UMA this summer. So thank you again. I wish you good luck as we're finishing up the term here. For those of you who will be graduating, my intent, I have a good friend, along with all you folks, who is graduating at UMA this coming May, and I will be at graduation. I will not necessarily be wearing a big orange outfit so you can see me in the audience, but I will be there, and maybe I'll see some of you and meet up. Just certainly keep your eyes out, but enjoy that event. I'm going to be sharing it with you, and that should be a lot of fun. The KVCC graduation is that evening in the same building, so I'm going to be hanging out in the Civic Center for a whole day. Okay, thank you again. I will see you around, I guess. So thank you again for a great semester, and take care.